Every generation believes that financial progress lives at peak. I think this time is different. Modern systems assume that advanced technology and smart policymakers have finally controlled the chaos of money. However, the date has the habit of disposing this illusion. One of the most devastating examples of this was experienced in a society with a trained, modern and strong medium class, not in an ancient empire or middle-aged kingdom, where people believe their accumulation is untouched. This is the story of Germany at the beginning of the 20th century. And a nation is the story of watching how the money is slow, then he died at once. After the First World War, Germany went out. The cities were standing. He was trained. The factories were still working. But the financial structure collapsed. Versailles Treaty was nearly impossible to pay them realistically. Politicians said that it is manageable. Economists argued that they are temporary. Ordinary people trust that their states will find a solution. Then the thing coming was not occupation. It was not a blow. But it was one of the most devastating collapses of financial history. The state was the easiest way to fulfill its obligations, the money was pressed. Initially effects were mild. Prices slowly increased. Moss met. People complained but continued life. The government said that inflation is a necessary bridge to be compensated. For a short time, this narrator was believed. Debts were like paying easier. Businesses were open. Politicians declared success. But inflation never does. Want more when released once. When it comes to 1921, money machines were working at night. In 1922, the value of money in people's wallets was observed weekly. In 1923, money was no longer turned into a joke. The workers paid their salary twice a day. Because they will be less valuable when they are in the evening, if they wait until the morning. The housewives run to the market with the banknote full of baskets. The prices were trying to get bread once again. Children's coins were set up in a row like toys, because the paper money was cheaper than the toy. Over 10 years, accumulated savings have been destroyed in months. Life fuses have been meaningless. Retired salaries in zero. All done correctly, made up, trusted mid-class families were completely deleted. The most intimidating thing was, no law was chewed. Nobody had to go home in thieves. No enemy army had stolen wealth. We were destroyed through policies, in a legal, quiet and systematic way. Trust died before. After money came. As hyperinflation is out of control, the social structure began to be solved. People left to accept German mark. Farmers refused to sell food for money. The workers requested their wages as goods. The trade economy back in a society that counts itself modern and medeni. At this time, those with real assets survived. Soil owners, factory owners, currency holders and those who have access to the bottom watch from a safe location. Hyperinflation was not an equal disaster. It was a brutal wealth transfer. The German mark was finally replaced by a new currency in almost a night when crashed. Rentenmark returns stability. But the damage was not returned. The trust to the institutions was broken. The middle class financially destroyed with the lumbar bone of the elusive. And from this trauma, something more dangerous than inflation was born: injustice. People now believed to gradual reforms or cautious policies. They wanted for certainty. They wanted to check. They were looking for one to blame. The date tells you what happened after that. But most often what is overlooked is the financial lesson. Hyperinflation was not only an economic failure. Psychological destruction. A Nestle taught money could be a lie. One showed how fragile it was. It proved that there may be no exception without warning. And Germany was not alone. The same pattern was repeated for centuries. In Zimbabwe, banknotes grew up to lose their meaning. The salary in Venezuela turned into the symbol. People in Argentina learned not to trust their own money. The story was the same every time. States promised stability. Central banks said that control is in their own. People in and. To be unbelievable. Relaxing fact: Hyperinflation is not born in the Cielette.
Universities, engineers, and doctors are experienced in society.
Because financial systems are built on trust.
And trust can be conquered for the sake of short-term survival. Pressing money initially appears painless.
Hard decisions. Prolific price delays. The system is felt like standing.
But when doing it, it silently alarms from anyone who holds cash, builds up and comes steady.
Hyperinflation is the logical final point of inflation.
It turns out that theft becomes visible to hide. The most dangerous part is, rarely declares itself.
Census proceeds. Accelerated. Then bursts. People do not wake up by waiting for a morning crash.
It adapts to increased prices.
He convinces himself that this is temporary. Trusts the authorities to act responsible.
When the panic starts, escape paths are very close.
Capital controls come. Banks close.
Withdrawal limits are subject.
And your money at once is now out of you.
The experience in Germany has changed the overview of the inflation of the central banks.
But the risk did not eliminate. Only made it thinner. We are slowly vaccinating rather than quickly destroying the money. We see rising living costs instead of handcars full banknote. We live silent losses instead of visible collapse. The effect is less dramatic, but the result is the same. They lose one. Debts earn. Asset owners are strengthened. Salary employees remain behind. That's why hyperinflation is one of the most sagging courses in finance history. Because it reveals the truth under the money. Money is not fortune. It is a claim on wealth.
And this claim applies only as long as systems remain reliable. When the trust is broken, the paper becomes paper again. The numbers turn into fiction.
Trust evaporates. Weimar Germany's tragedie is not only a dipnot that is up in history books. It is a warning written by human suffering.
It shows that financial collapses do not need to start with chaos.
It starts with a teaser. It starts to believe that problems will remain unexistent.
And the most annoying fact reveals, the most dangerous collapses are not sudden.
For people adapt, they do not resist the harmony until they become impossible.
Every hyperinflation leaves the survivors who have learned a lesson very late.
Do not trust the parable blind. Do not think that someone is safe because they are legal. Do not mix the mulch with permanentness. Systems protect themselves before. Individuals are in the second plan. When printing increases, the policy always chooses to survive before justice.
The German mark did not die for people to work, produce, or deny value.
The mechanism measured value died because it was destroyed.
And when this happens, it takes generations to rebuild trust.
That's why hyperinflation is more afraid of remission, market collapses, and debt crises. Because it is not only wealthy, it also destroys memory. It teaches people not to trust institutions, neighbors, and future.
Today, governments said that the measures are taken, the lessons are removed, but the history is more quiet.
Tools changed. Language softener.
But the incentives remain the same.
When the states encounter irresistible loads, the attraction of watering returns. The question is not that hyperinflation will be repeated. People will not notice warning signs before they break trust. Because trust once crashes, there is no emergency button. No recovery plan. There is no quick reform until it will save the lost one.
The money crashes before disappearing.
And in the crash, the shock will never be only economical. Personal. Emotional. And it is permanent. If this story has disturbed you, it was not to say. Because finance state is not related to history. About patterns.
And the patterns do not exist because we want to ignore them. If you want to understand the fragile trust that keeps money, strength, and them together, subscribe.
The date has experienced the things that we think without the possibility.
And they always leave alerts for those who know to look.